Warning: viewer discretion is advised. Hi friends, welcome to Meals to Unalive For, where we talk about a true crime case and I make a death row meal from scratch. I'm your host, Jody Breton, and if you enjoy this episode, please like and subscribe. I'm on TikTok, YouTube, all the things, so come find me. Today we're talking about a lesser-known serial unaliver known as David Edwin Mason. So let's get into it. David was born December 2nd, 1956 in Statesboro, Georgia. He was the fourth of 8 total children born to Harris and Margie Mason. According to his father, David was the result of an unwanted pregnancy, so his mother tried to induce a miscarriage by being unsafe, trying to lift heavy things, just doing anything that she could that wasn't really safe to try to make that happen, which is super sad. Shortly after David's birth, his family moved to Oakland, California. David's parents were strict fundamentalist Pentecostals, and as a result, they would subject their children to harsh physical, psychological, and verbal abuse if any of them showed what they considered a lack of enthusiasm in religious activities. David and his siblings would later recall that they spent most of their time at home or in church. According to David and his family, he would attempt to unalive himself multiple times. His first attempt was at age 5 by swallowing several dozen tablets, which was incredibly sad and crushing to me. Even though he did end up being a serial unaliver, I can still feel bad for the child version of him, and I can't imagine how depressed this little 5-year-old must have been to want to try to do that. Later on in life, both of his parents admitted that they beat David for even minuscule reasons, and David himself claimed that at least 2 occasions his mother had inflicted more than 100 hits during a punishment session with a belt, switch, or pancake turner. In the mid-1960s, David began to exhibit more concerning behaviors and signs of mental illness, which honestly I didn't even understand that comment because was the attempt at 5 not concerning enough? But anyway, at the age of 8, his father found him standing in front of his younger brother's crib with a knife in his hand, and of course, he was physically punished for that. His parents were no longer able to control his behavior, so his parents began to lock David in his room for prolonged periods of time and installed a grate with steel bars on the window. So they would just stick him in his room for hours on end since they didn't know what to do with him at that point. In the coming years, David made several more suicide attempts at various times, trying to commit suicide by self-immolation, hanging, cutting himself, throwing himself down the stairs. And if you don't know what self-immolation is, I had to look it up as well because I had never heard that term. That's the act of setting yourself on fire. So the ways that he was choosing to unalive himself were not peaceful ways either. It all seemed very violent to me, which is very sad. He must have been in a lot of pain to want to go out that way. During this whole time, he was attacking other students and teachers, earning a reputation as a bully. He was setting fire to neighboring houses, a school, and the church. In 1970, David was arrested for several petty offenses, after which he did report his parents' ill treatment towards the authorities, and he did undergo a psychiatric evaluation, which determined that he had an IQ of 110 and was actually a pretty good learner, but also showed signs of PTSD. And with permission from his parents, he was sent to a boarding school. Mason escaped from the boarding school and returned home on several occasions and claimed that he had been essayed by staff and other children, but each time he was forcibly returned. In 1973, he was arrested and convicted for yet another arson, for which he was given several months in a juvenile detention center. Returning home after he finished the sentence, The following year, he would drop out of school before finishing the 11th grade and he enlisted in the Marine Corps. This definitely wouldn't last, though. During his first few weeks, David committed numerous offenses and was disciplined several times, resulting in his dismissal from the Marines 4 months later, and he had to return to his parents' home. After returning back to Oakland, David supported himself through odd jobs and prostitution. On July 8th, 1977, he stabbed a store clerk, Virginia Jensen, with an ice pick in the back after robbing a store in San Leandro before stealing her pocket money and $270 from the cash register. He threatened to kill her if she called the police and testified against him, cleaning his fingerprints from various objects, and he left. Virginia was hospitalized for her wound, but she did survive, and she positively identified David after his photograph was presented to her. An arrest warrant was issued, and he voluntarily surrendered to the police. At trial, David pleaded guilty to the crimes, and he was sentenced November 1977 to 36 months in state prison and was paroled July 13th, 1979. The very next year, David would go on to start his murder spree. David's first victim was 73-year-old Joan Picard, whom he had known for 8 years and had done various cleaning and gardening work as a kid. Since he frequently visited her home, he knew that the elderly woman was collecting antique coins, and due to her fear of robbers, Joan had shown him how the alarm system works, letting him know how to turn it off. Which when I read that, it just broke my heart because I can't imagine knowing somebody for 8 years and showing them how to use the alarm system and then becoming the exact reason why I would want the alarm system. It was just all so sad to me. On March 6, 1980, in desperate need for cash, David went to Joan's house and threatened her with a weapon, demanding that she hand over her coin collection, money, and other valuables. During the robbery, the woman was unsuccessful to turn on the alarm, causing David to choke her into unconsciousness. He then used his time to loot money and valuables, but Joan woke up and attempted to flee. David caught up to her, then beat and tied Joan with electric wire before strangling her to death. That very same evening, he sold the coins for $85. Joan's body, clad only in a blue skirt and bra, was found 2 days later by her daughter. The living room stairs and bedroom were covered in bloodstains, and it appeared that the killer had removed her sweater by force, due to which fragments of buttons were found in different rooms. David's second victim would be 83-year-old Arthur Jennings, a known gay man notorious for paying teenagers and young men for sexual services. David himself later alleged that he had had sex with Jennings on several occasions since his school years, either in his car or at his house. On August 18th, 1980, he went to his home and strangled Jennings. After killing him, Mason stole $16 and a ring that the old man had been given when he served in the Army during World War I. On November 16th, 1980, David broke into a high-rise apartment of 75-year-old Antoinette Brown. He beat, then strangled her with a knot made from underwear and other clothing. After the murder, he stole some rings and money, leaving Antoinette's body almost completely naked. During the investigation, the victim's neighbor, Paula White, told police that she had met the alleged killer, who was exiting the elevator at the ground floor. Around 4 p.m., she gave a physical description of David, from which a facial composite was made. On December 6, 1980, David broke into a second-story apartment of 72-year-old Dorothea Lang. He immediately attacked her. She resisted fiercely, making David strike her several times on the head and chest with a wrench. He fractured several ribs before finally strangling her with his bare hands. After the murder, he stole a number of valuables from the apartment and stripped Dorothea down, leaving only a sweater and bra on, which he pushed up to her neck. I kept reading how he was stripping down some of the victims, and I kind of think that he was trying to throw police off with that, just trying to make them think that there was ulterior motives, but I don't know. What do you guys think? On January 6, 1981, 4 weeks after the murder of Dorothea Lange, David drove past a patrol car in Alameda County near I-580, driving at high speeds in his Dodge Charger. To avoid pursuit, David exited the freeway and entered a residential area where he passed several streets before he wound up at a dead end, which forced him to leave his car. He managed to escape the police on foot, but while searching the interior of his car, they found his documents and receipts from a car repair shop, which indicated the address of his parents' residence. On January 22nd, police officer Larry Shewart visited Mason's parents' home in San Lorenzo and spoke to his mother and brother Mark. Mark told Detective Larry that David had left the house several days prior and gave them an audio cassette with the words David E. Mason written on it, with notes additionally asking that they keep it should something happen to him. With the family's permission, the detective played the cassette, which contained a recording of David confessing to a long list of violent crimes. In the tape, he described the circumstances of the murders in detail, only known to the police his motives, parts of his biography, and his position in life. At the end of the tape, he expressed his belief that he would die in a shootout with police. As a result, a warrant was issued for his arrest, and on February 4th, 1981, David was arrested without incident at a Holiday Inn. During his interrogation at the police station, he again reiterated his claims from the tape and added a confession to a murder of his 55-year-old lover, Robert Groff, a dog business owner who lived in a trailer in Butte County. Mason claimed that after one of their dates, Groff told him that he had intentionally infected him with herpes, after which the two got into a fight. As a result, in the late fall of 1980, David went to Groff's trailer and shot him while he slept, after which he looted the trailer. Police would learn about other violent crimes that David committed. In March 1980, David assaulted and attempted to rob a victim who was returning home late at night. During the fight, David struck the victim on the top of the head with a gun. Then, in December 1980, he gained entrance to a home of an elderly couple under the pretext of selling and delivering firewood. He then handcuffed the victims to a chair and robbed them of $47,000 worth of jewelry and coins. David was taken to Alameda County Jail to await trial. On May 8, 1982, 24-year-old Boyd Wayne Johnson had been arrested for the rape and murder of Patricia Garcia in Redding, who was also interned to await trial there. Once in prison, Johnson demanded to be put in solitary confinement and isolated from other prisoners, refusing to communicate with anyone, especially concerning the reason for his arrest. While conversating with other prisoners, David heard claims that Johnson was actually an informant who had previously testified against other criminals as a witness to the prosecution. Later on, David proposed to fellow inmates Nathaniel Yancey, Quentin Shorter, and Maurice Grant to kill Johnson. All but Shorter refused, and so in the early morning, David and Shorter burst into Johnson's cell and attacked him. While he resisted violently, Johnson was overpowered, severely beaten, and finally strangled with a towel. After killing him, Mason and Shorter went to the shower room, carrying Johnson's body along, which they then hung from a water pipe, trying to present it as a suicide. After the body was discovered, all the inmates were questioned as to what had happened, and during the investigation, Shorter confessed that he and Mason had killed him, a claim later confirmed by Yancey and Grant. Prison authorities searched through Mason's cell and personal belongings, finding bloodstains on his towel and shoes, as well as numerous abrasions and bruises on David himself, indicating that he had recently been in a struggle. David would end up being found guilty of 5 murders and sentenced to death on January 27, 1984. No charges were brought in the murder of Groff, although he remained a suspect in that case. After his conviction, David was transferred to San Quentin State Prison to await execution, where he spent the remainder of his life. While in prison, he married a woman named Charlene and fully admitted the guilt of his crimes and expressed remorse for what he had done. Side note, I will never understand the women who marry serial killers in prison. We really should be getting better morals. Like, please stop idolizing these people. David would end up withdrawing his appeal against his death sentence in June 1993, setting his execution date for August 24th, 1993. He later claimed that his decision was influenced by his remorse and desire to teach a lesson to other criminals so they would not repeat his mistakes. David would spend his last day with his family. He did ask them that they not attend his execution because he didn't want to be remembered that way. He also denied a last meal, only requesting ice water. He also could have stopped the execution at any time. His lawyer actually tried to go above him and say that he was insane and that he couldn't make decisions for himself, but that didn't work. So they had the papers drawn up, and up until right before he was executed, at any time, he could have said that he wanted to file an appeal, but he never did. He went through with it. David Mason was executed August 24th, 1993 at 12:23 local time, 7 minutes after entering the gas chamber. Before his execution, he was even told by his lawyer that if he changed his mind, he would only have to blink twice to signal that he wanted to stop the execution. After this, though, David refused to look in his direction. So since David didn't have a requested last meal, I just kind of made whatever I want. So I decided to make a creamy chicken gnocchi soup, a focaccia bread, a caprese salad, or inspired. I know that caprese typically only has mozzarella, tomato, and basil, but I personally like a little bit of onion and cucumber in mine, so we did that. And then I made a panna cotta. So really good meal. I really enjoyed it. I know it has nothing to do with him or his last meal, but I didn't want to pass up this case. I still wanted to tell you guys about it. And I figured you wouldn't want to just watch me pour a glass of water. So 10 out of 10 would definitely make all of this again. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you haven't subscribed, please do that. Come find me on TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, all the things, and let me know how you felt about today's episode. And I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.